For those people that don't know you, please just tell us, your name and just a little bit about your background and really what you're up to these days.
Sure. My name is Debbie Persampire, and I live in Huntington. And I'm a teacher and a parent. And what I'm up to these days is I have a small cell antenna that was placed outside my home by the town of Huntington. Crown Castle put it there on behalf of Verizon Wireless. And it happened about 1.5 years ago, and ever since then I've been doing a lot of research to figure out what it is and whether or not my family is still safe to live in that home. And so these days what I've been doing is putting most of my time and energy toward working at a cause that I never thought I'd be involved with. And we've started an activist group, Citizens for 5G Awareness. And from what I learned, we're just trying to raise awareness in the public and make some changes because it doesn't look like this is a good direction.
What is 5G?
So 5G is 5th generation wireless. And what that means is 1st generation brought us cell phones, and 2nd generation 1G and 2G. 2G brought us data, being able to send data. 3G brought us texting, 4G brought us video conferencing, and 5G is promising driverless cars, better virtual reality, and the connectivity of everything to everything else. Smart homes, smart villages, smart towns. And unfortunately, 5G needs millimeter wave frequencies to work, and millimeter waves don't travel well through walls. So in order to make 5G effective, they're telling us they need to put these small cell antennas outside of our homes, every 2 to 10 houses, all through our neighborhoods and our nation. And it's of great concern because these antennas, it turns out, are not safe. They should not be outside of our homes and in our neighborhoods.
Will 5G be completely replacing 4G?
Actually, no. We'll still have the 4G frequencies, which also are not safe. And on top of 4G frequencies, they'll add 5G millimeter waves, sub-millimeter waves, and frequencies which are 15 to 20 times higher than the frequencies used by 4G. So they're really blanketing it on, and it's all cumulative. So we'll be exposed to more than ever before.
Since you have a small cell antenna outside your home, have you measured the radiation in and around your house?
I have actually. I had a building biologist come to my home and measure the radiation inside and outside of my home. And then we also have an acoustimeter, which is a radio frequency microwave radiation meter. It was $400. It measures the radiation, and it has a light on it, which goes from green to yellow to red. In the green, you're in the clear. If there's no radiation, there is no light at all. In the yellow, you should be concerned maybe for the long term, but if it's temporary, it should be fine. In the red, it's at levels that have been linked to cancer. And so in my children's beds, as you go upstairs in my house, in my home, you get closer to the antenna outside. So the upstairs rooms have higher radiation. So in the beds of my children, the radiation is in the red. And in my backyard and driveway, it is also in the red. The building biologist that came to my home offered some advice about shielding, but it's very expensive and time-consuming, and it just doesn't feel like I should have to do that. So we're trying to make a decision as to how to mitigate or whether or not we may move. But the thing is, we're not sure where to go because is there anywhere that's really safe? It's not just outside my home. There are 200 of these small cells in Huntington so far, with hundreds more coming. And I think no matter where we move, there's a chance that we may find ourselves in the same predicament.
All antennas in the U.S. are supposed to be FCC compliant. Doesn't it mean that they're safe?
I wish it did. When I was told the antenna was FCC compliant, I was relieved for about a minute. And then I went online and did a little research. I needed to know what it meant. The FCC guidelines are within the 1996 Telecommunications Act. And that is from 1996. And it's based on research from the 1980s. Unfortunately, they are not protective of biological harm from this radiation. And they're, simply put, they're antiquated. And there have been thousands of studies on this type of radiation since that has gone into effect. And the FCC hasn't done anything. They haven't revised, they haven't revisited and revised those guidelines at all. And you know, they're very high. Our guidelines here in the United States are much higher than many other countries. In China and Italy, Switzerland, Russia, the guidelines there, the limits, are 100 times lower than what they are here in America and in Canada. Canada is very high as well. So, you know, it's just not true that FCC compliance equals safety, unfortunately.
If RF microwave radiation from wireless devices and cell antennas is not safe, why isn't this common knowledge?
That's a good question. Well, the FCC is run by the commissioner, Brendan Carr. He was a wireless telecom attorney, or a telecom attorney. And then you have Ajit Pai, who chairs the FCC. He was a Verizon attorney for a couple of years before he sat in that seat where he is now. And prior to him, the FCC chairperson was Tom Wheeler. He's the one that got the ball rolling on 5G, and he was a lobbyist for the CTIA. So it looks like the fox is guarding the hen house here. And people don't know it's safe because the industry has spent $60 to $80 million a year lobbying to make sure that we don't get the truth. Because if we get the truth, we won't buy their products and we won't buy into what they're trying to sell us. And so that is why we don't get the truth. And you know, they have more than 500 lobbyists, full-time lobbyists, the telecom industry in Washington. That's at least one for every member of Congress.
Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the science?
Sure. Well, in 2011, the World Health Organization classified radio frequency microwave radiation as a class 2B carcinogen, which means a possible carcinogen. Now that was 2011. Since then, we've had some impressive studies that really do show it should be reclassified now. Many scientists are saying that it should be reclassified now as a definite carcinogen. And one of those studies is the National Toxicology Program study. It was a $30 million study done by our United States government. It took place over 16 years, and the conclusion was made in 2018 that radio frequency microwave radiation at levels below the United States guidelines do cause brain cancer, heart tumors, DNA damage, and a host of other tumors as well. And then on the heels of that study, the largest study ever done to date, it's called the Ramazzini study from the Ramazzini Institute in Italy. That came out, and their levels that they tested were also below the United States guidelines. And unfortunately, they found the exact same results as the NTP study: DNA damage, brain cancer, heart tumors, and many other tumors. And so the science is solid. There are thousands of studies that show biological harm from radiation at levels much lower than what we're allowed to be exposed to in this country.
With all the solid science available, can't we stop this in its tracks?
Well, it's hard to believe what I'm about to tell you, but in the 1996 Telecommunications Act, there's a clause that says we are not allowed to argue placement of these antennas on the basis of environmental concerns. And the courts are reading into that as health as well. So we need to fight it. Unfortunately for now, we need to fight it using aesthetics, property values, privacy, safety concerns, and do we really need them? I think that's the argument we need to make for now until we can get our federal Congress to amend that 1996 Telecommunications Act and change that clause.
Are any representatives speaking about this issue?
Yes. So in Michigan, there's Senator Colbeck, Patrick Colbeck. He is speaking out. He has made testimony against 5G, and we commend him, and he really is a hero as far as I'm concerned. And then we have Senator Blumenthal in Connecticut and Congresswoman Ashu in California. They've come together and they've asked the FCC to provide evidence showing that 5G won't cause cancer. And they gave them a deadline of December 16th. This was just 2018. And so far, the FCC has ignored their request. But what we can do is we can ask our own federal government, our own federal representatives, if they will please support Blumenthal and Ashu and go ahead and write their own letter to Congress asking these same questions, because these are our representatives and we deserve, at the very least, for them to protect our health. We need them to be our advocates.
Are there scientists or doctors who are speaking out about this?
Well, actually, there's something called the 5G Space Appeal and the 5G International Appeal. And these are documents put forth by and signed by over 250 experts, scientists, and doctors who are very concerned about the studies, the science, and the fact that everyone is an experiment at this point. And they're asking for a moratorium on the increasing amounts of EMFs and 5G.
Is there a solution, and if so, what is it?
So we need to focus on wired technology because everyone wants technology. I love technology too. And it's important that we understand that we can still have it, but we need to have wired technology because when you have wires, instead of the Wi-Fi, like Wi-Fi in your room, instead of having a connection on wireless devices from your Wi-Fi, when you have a wired connection, the internet connection is coming through the wire. Instead of polluting your whole space, it's coming through the wire into your computer, and you're not getting radiation, and you're safe. So fiber to the homes, every business, every home, every school, we need fiber cables to provide wired internet service. And we need to stop the direction. Unfortunately, we're going in the wrong direction, and we need to stop and focus and spend money on fiber optic cables so that we can all have safer, more secure, faster internet.
What is your advice for people who want to change the whole direction?
So I would say talk to your local politicians and your state and federal representatives as well. They all need to know about the issue, and they need to know that we're concerned and that we expect them to act and be our advocates. I would also say talk to everyone you know. Show the Generation Zapped documentary to get people on board with you because that helps people to understand that wireless technology is not safe like we thought it was. And then start a group if there isn't one in your community. First check and maybe there is one that you can join, but if there isn't a group working on this, start your own because we need groups in every village, city, town across our nation who can all come together and speak loudly and make a difference. Our children deserve it. They deserve a fair chance at health.